Hello everyone, welcome back to the Stereotypically Japan podcast. My name is Michael, and every week I like to talk about my experiences and life in Japan, focused around some common stereotypes or misconceptions. This week, I thought it would be a fitting segue from last episode, so I'll talk about the alcohol and drinking culture here in Japan. This is something that I've really noticed change over the years, and it really has gone from one end of the spectrum to another. How it is perceived in society has also changed a lot over the years, and I want to dive deeper into that. So sit back and relax while we talk about everyone's favorite addiction. Calling it an addiction might be a little harsh, especially these days, because it is starting to change, and it is something that a lot of people actually don't even want to do. But for now, let's just talk about what kind of presence it has here. When I first came to Japan, it really felt like alcohol was prevalent everywhere. You literally couldn't go a few steps without seeing ads for Suntory or Asahi somewhere. They used a lot of famous celebrities or athletes, pretty much anyone and everyone. When I visited Japan for the first time, I even saw a Bill Murray ad for Suntory whiskey. I can't even begin to explain how cool that was because Lost in Translation is one of my favorite movies. If you haven't seen it yet, then as soon as you're done listening, please check it out. Even though it is from 2003, I think it still holds up. I love movies, and if you are interested, I will make an episode on movies and film culture here in Japan. Walking around Asakusa, you can't miss the famous Asahi headquarters even if you tried. And the golden sperm. Foam. Actually, fire. I don't know. That is one of the most recognizable things in the country, let alone Tokyo. A bit of a history lesson regarding that building for those who are interested. That golden marvel on top of the building was designed by French designer Philippe Starck and completed in 1989. The inspiration of it was a fire to represent the burning heart of Asahi beer, but due to regulatory issues, they weren't allowed to have it stand up in the way it was intentionally designed, so they had to lay it down on top of the building. That is how we got its infamous form, and some say it represents fire, others claim it represents the foam of a beer. People have even said it's a cloud to show the sky is the limit. We all know the truth, though, and anyone who has ever had a pet knows exactly what I mean. And believe me, I would rather be picking up some clouds or foam. It is quite distracting, so distracting that many people don't even realize that the building next to it is the real headquarters. And that building is actually designed to look like a glass of beer, and it really does. The windows are gold, the top, which is actually an Asahi beer garden with a 360-degree view, and has a fresh Asahi tap beer that you can only get from there, is white to represent the head or foam of a beer. All of that is to say that while the area has a big temple called Sensoji, the Sky Tree, the Kokugikan, which is the home of sumo, this beer building is the most famous and recognizable structure, or thing, or whatever it is. Beer and alcohol are such a big part of the culture, and one of the main reasons for this goes back pretty far. I won't go into the whole history, but it is the whole nomikai custom. If you don't know what that is, the literal meaning is just drinking party. The origins of nomikai come from the Meiji period, between 1868 and 1912, where it was a custom in universities as a way for students to build stronger relationships. Then, of course, those students graduated and then started to work, so the culture just spilled over into business. At that time, because Japan was rapidly modernizing, companies and businesses started to develop new cultures and norms, nomikai included, and have kept them ever since then. An important reason for this is because while many people were so focused on education, they couldn't build their social skills and needed any reason they could get to make it easier. And what better way than with alcohol? It relaxes the senses and helps them calm their nerves, breaks down some of the walls that people have built up, and just enables smoother communication, which is why it has been a huge part of Japanese culture for so long. As mentioned previously, there is a whole culture of respect and treating people, especially elders, a particular way, and alcohol is kind of an excuse to put those cultural norms on the back burner, even for just a few hours. Because while drinking, people really don't care as much over time, mostly because they're just drinking and getting drunker and drunker. When I first came to Japan and started working, there were a lot of nomikais. The moment anyone joined or left the company, a transfer, a birthday, a Tuesday, whatever the reason, there was always a drinking party. If there wasn't, it would be normal to walk to the nearest convenience store and grab a street beer or a roadie as we call it with some coworkers and just hang out in front of the station drinking until we needed to catch our train. At the time, I didn't mind. It was actually a good way to bond and get to know people. I had some good times and a lot of interesting stories were shared. Maybe some of them might pop up on here from time to time. These days though, things have changed. Almost certainly it was due to COVID. When the global pandemic hit, The world changed. We couldn't go out, restaurants were closed. You know how it was. You don't need me to explain it. But what happened was that almost everyone in Japan was relieved about something. Those nomikais couldn't happen anymore. There was a huge sigh of relief over the whole country where everyone just said, "Wow, we don't need to go drinking every night. This is fantastic." You might be wondering why they even went to begin with. Well, if you listen to the previous episodes, people are patient. So even if they didn't want to, they felt like it was necessary, so they just toughed it out. People did feel like it was necessary. If you didn't go, you would actually have a more difficult time at the company, or you would be considered an outsider or a shy person, or the person who didn't make an effort. So it was never really optional, no matter what they said. These days, though, while they still exist, they are much fewer and farther in between, and the members involved are all willing participants. There aren't many situations these days where people are forced to go to a nomikai. And that is a good sign of things to come. If there is a party or something that someone doesn't want to go to, a lot of people just actually say no, which is something unheard of a decade ago. And don't need to lie or make up some excuse like, "Oh, I did my laundry this morning and I gotta go home quickly and take them inside before it rains," or something like that. There were also commercials on TV that started showing up about a year ago, featuring some famous comedians sitting around an izakaya drinking, and one of the members should leave or something like that, and they break out in song about how it is just okay to say no, or drink a non-alcoholic beverage. It has one of those tunes that just sticks in your head, and that's very much on purpose. Next time they are in such a situation, that catchy tune will pop up in their head, and they can use it as a way to say no. Then everyone laughs, and it's okay. So uncomfortable situation averted. Another reason for this is a less interesting one, and that is logistics. People were working remotely, so there was no chance to meet after work for a drink, so that also contributed to the shift in society. Unfortunately, though, that is changing, and a lot of companies are starting to shift back to a full-time RTO, or return to office. Every single person I've spoken to is unhappy about this. I think that is a feeling shared all over the world, but that is a whole topic deserving of an episode itself. I hope this shift is something that will keep moving in a positive direction. I'm a bit worried that things might be moving back to how they were before, even if partially, it is still a concern. Since people are returning to the office, there are more and more nomikais, the amount is increasing more and more, and while some people don't mind, it feels like it is increasing at a faster pace, and since they are unhappy about having to return to the office and all of the conflicts that come out of that, people are drinking more. The thing about a lot of people here is that they can't hold their alcohol and aren't very good drunks. I have countless stories of the worst things you can imagine. Funny after the fact, and as long as you aren't involved, but still terrible. I'm sure many people have countless stories themselves, and if you do, feel free to send them to me by email, and I'll read them on an episode if you like. I think that would be actually pretty fun. If you walk around some of the busier areas or residential areas on a Saturday or Sunday morning, you will find all kinds of monja on the streets. And if you don't know what that is, just Google monjayaki and you'll know what I mean. Okay, story time. I remember when I was working in Omotesando, a high-end area in Tokyo with a lot of fashion boutiques, basically a very bougie area. While I was walking through the station, I found that someone had thrown up on the platform beside a pillar, so it was a bit difficult to see. A disgusting surprise around the corner. But what happened next was even worse, unimaginable. A woman was walking towards me from behind, absolutely gorgeous and dressed to the nines. She had her Louboutins and Elmis bag, and as she was walking, she didn't notice the platform pizza and stepped right into it. She not only stepped in it, but it caused her to slip, and she landed right in the middle of hell. The look on her face after realizing what just happened still haunts me at night sometimes. Her face was full of despair, disgust, and a million other words that I can't even describe well enough to really convey how she felt. The only thing I could do was go through my bag to give her a pack of wet tissues that I had, my handkerchief, and literally anything else I could find. So I asked her if she wanted to use some of my cologne too. Now, if you ever see a Japanese person in need and you offer your help, 10 out of 10 times they'll refuse whatever it is that you're offering. But in this case, she took all of my wet tissues. She took my handkerchief. She took my convenience store plastic bag. And she just doused herself in my cologne until she smelled like a Roppongi nightclub. I'm sure she would have even swapped souls if I had offered that. Through tears, she profusely apologized and thanked me and ran off like a thief in the night. If I'm ever in the Omotesando area and I have a drink, I'll always pour one out for her. I've got many more where that came from, but for now, I want to talk a little bit about alcohol itself, because I'm sure after hearing that, you just want to have a nice cold one, don't you? Drinking culture is what it is, for better or worse. But the alcohol itself in Japan is amazing and cheap to boot. Everyone has heard of Japanese whiskey. It is so popular overseas that it was sold out a few years ago. How crazy is that? Not one brand, but all of Japanese whiskey was sold out. You couldn't get anywhere, in or outside of Japan. If you did find it, you paid for it. In recent years, Japan has also tried to bolster its wine production with the number of wineries tripling in the past decade. But not only that, Japanese beer is very good and has a lot of variety as well. Something interesting you might not know about Japanese beer is that up until recently, it was taxed depending on their malt content. That caused a lot of lower malt content drinks to become very popular. They're known as happoshu, and real beer became more of a luxury. 2 years ago, there was a big tax reform, and now those real beers have a much more reduced tax, and we can get them even cheaper these days. Nice. Besides beer, we also have all kinds of Japanese sake. And please note how it's pronounced. It isn't sake, it's sake. From literally every prefecture, you can find various amazing foods, like I mentioned in my previous episode, but also drinks with all of the effort you would imagine put into them, and that makes them a rich part of the culture itself. If you ever get a chance to go to Niigata, a very famous place for growing high-quality rice, in Echigo Yuzawa Station, they have what can only be described as a wall of different sake you can taste and buy. Imagine at the train station, you know how there is walls of lockers, right? Imagine something like that, but instead of lockers for your stuff, they're lockers full of sake. If you're interested, I'll post a picture on my social media, so please check it out there and leave me a comment. Yes, engagement, right? A good takeaway from this episode is to drink responsibly. That, and don't feel pressured into doing anything you don't want to do, especially in this day and age. Peer pressure or work pressure isn't a thing anymore. We are free to do what we want to do, or what we don't want to do. No one is allowed to dictate that for us. So please, if you ever feel like that is the case, just do something about it. And if you can't, please talk to someone who can. And if there isn't anyone, then get yourself out of that situation as quickly and safely as possible. Next week, I'll discuss anime, manga, and otaku culture. So please tune in, and I hope you can look forward to that. Thank you so much for listening to the Stereotypically Japan podcast. I can't say this enough, but I truly appreciate everyone for staying with me, Michael, and I really hope to see you in the next one. This is something that I'm really enjoying, and I usually spend a lot of time working on other things, but that definitely feels more like actual work. But this is more like a hobby, and I want to share it with as many people as possible. If you want to help or support the podcast, please leave a review or a comment on YouTube, share it with your friends or anything. I want to hear more from all of you, and if you have any stories or anything like that you'd like to share with me, please email me. You can find it in the description with all the other socials. It is and always has been a pleasure. So until next time, please take care of me, and I'll catch you on the flip side. Jane.